Okay, hello and welcome to Wordspace Radio, episode 3. My name's Billy and joining me in the studio today is Megan.
Hi.
Ethan.
Hi.
And special guest Tim Ellis.
Hi.
How's it going, mate? You okay?
Yeah, it's fine, thanks.
Wonderful stuff. This is our first episode where it's all about you.
Dear.
One particular published writer who's going to be sharing some of his poems and stuff with us. You're plugging one book in particular, aren't you?
Yeah, I've published a new book recently. It's called God the Banana, and it's I call it a verse novel. It's a complete novel written in sonnet form. There's 437 rhyming, scanning sonnets in there, making up a story.
Yeah, you spoke to us, spoke to me when we met about it, and I was quite impressed because I've never actually heard of a novel structured that way in my life. Would it count as a novel, or is it a poetry collection? What technically is it?
I wouldn't call it a collection because it is very tightly structured, plot-wise. There are a few other people have attempted it in the past. Vikram Seth wrote one in the 1980s. I discovered after I published this. I thought I'd had the idea, but
what gave you the idea, actually?
Well, I was trying to write a novel, as it happens. I mean, I've been writing poetry for years. Nobody reads books of poetry, as far as I can tell, but lots of people seem to write novels, so I thought maybe that's where I'm going wrong. But I soon discovered I'm not very good at writing novels, actually. Prose is quite a different way of writing.
It's an entirely different kettle of fish, isn't it? But if you're very used to a poetic way, but you've got a big story to write to put across, it's a really clever way of doing it, mixing the two. Yeah,
well, I mean, I started trying to actually write a standard novel. I'd got it all plotted out ready, and I made 2 attempts and didn't get past the first chapter really, and then I just had this idea one day. I'm good at writing sonnets. I'll just try writing the first paragraph as a sonnet. So I did that, and it looked okay. So I did the second paragraph, and it looked okay. I just carried on, and I got about 10 of them, and I thought, yeah, this isn't as hard as you'd think, and I just kept going really. And
you got a book?
About 3 years later, I got to the end of the story. So
that's brilliant. 3 years and 400 sonnets later.
Yeah.
437 rather. That's pretty crazy. What's the book actually called?
It's called God the Banana.
Wonderful stuff. Do you want to give us an explanation about the title there?
Well, might be giving it all away if I explained it too much, but there's a bit of a clue on the cover. But
that's a difficult one. I'm thinking I've got to describe that for the people listening, because you can't.
We'll definitely post a picture.
Yeah, we'll stick it on the video.
Yeah. You're probably better describing it than me.
Well, I should mention the cover is done by my partner Robbie Burns, who is a talented illustrator, as you can see. She has a website which is robbieburnsillustration.co.uk. Plenty of examples of her work there. I realise it's going to be difficult reading poems from a book that's a story. Like anything other than the beginning, you're going to have to explain a whole lot of plot before you can read a poem to anybody, so I did something a bit clever, I thought, with this. I made the first 2 poems and the very last poem in the book work together as a single poem, so I can just read those 3 out as a sample, and you wouldn't know that I've just skipped 434 sonnets in the middle.
Oh, awesome idea.
So I shall read them first.
Okay, ready when you are, mate.
Picture a diamond spinning against the dark, flinging back the brilliance of a sun. Move a little closer. You'll be stunned how lakes and oceans flash, how ice caps spark. Zoom in lower still and see the forests, so vibrant, so intense. Your eyes will ache. They sweep through archipelagos that arc across the turquoise waters of the tropics. Now select an island of that region. Focus in on green until the stark disfigurements become defined. The lesions roded into wildscape with no pity. The oil palm tree plantations. Those pockmarks are cattle plains, those giant squid are cities. Then hover over one such, be a bird, a scavenging kite. Greedily eye the slim parishioners of plastic-sheeted slums that make the creature's long-limbed outline blurred. Note the ruins dotted round the place. Churches, shocked by seismic shifts, have tired, have cracked and crumbed, and as they fell, interred the notions of a colonizing race. Swoop down on a square where scuttle squads of vertebrates that teem like ants when stirred. They mill round marble forms of many gods, and taking up one plaza sides the regal, though taste can vary, and some might say absurd, mass of an immense Baroque cathedral. Now let's rise up with the kite, rise above the suffering of these people. We'll see the world contracting to a pebble, a grain of sand, and winking out of sight. And lost in space, we won't know whether deserts bleached at last the last green parts of it, nor if mankind succumbed without a fight, each destroyed by each at each's leisure. And we might meet a ghost that's troubled by his loss. We'll ask if he'll shed light on why he let them pop the great thought bubble within the gem, the flaw that made it glorious. More likely, though, we'll plunge through endless night where reason fails, where faith exults victorious.
Okay. Do you want to give us a little bit of information about the deeper meaning, if there is any, or how it ties into the novel as a whole?
It skirts around the novel quite a lot, that bit. It's just a sort of introduction and ending. I mean, one of the themes is the clash of faith and science, religion, and reason and religion. It's more playing with themes around that.
I noted there was one particular line that stood out to me: pop the thought bubble within the diamond, something like that. That brought to mind to me the shattering of religious ideas. I don't know if that's what you intended.
Something like that. Yeah, whether you know, perfect diamonds are reckoned to be ones that actually have flaws inside them, because it's the flaw that catches the light and diffracts it. An absolute perfect diamond isn't as valuable as one that's not quite right inside. And I was using that as a metaphor for intelligent life on the planet Earth.
Ah, very cool. You see, I'd never have got that right off the bat. Like maybe with a few hours of thinking.
Yeah, with you saying that, that is a really nice metaphor, because, like you said, with the diamond not being too perfect inside, humanity on a whole is an amazing thing. However you believe it happened somehow, and the fact that we're all here, like four of us in a room talking about your book and this idea, that how did that happen? We're hardly gonna know. Right. And humans are flawed, but we're also amazing things.
Well,
with lots of flaws.
I think you just about hit it on the nub there. Yeah.
Yeah, it is you can't deny the absolute beauty of, existence in it, or part of its glory, and what makes it awesome is the fact that it's bit of a bloody mess, really.
Yeah, it's all about life basically being accidental from the atheistic viewpoint.
No, it's a very interesting one. I like how well it all ties together, because, like you say, you've skipped 400 odd poems there, 400 odd sonnets, and it did flow perfectly well. It wasn't jarring for the first two to the third. No, it's wonderful just as a 3-piece thing. But I am interested to know what on earth happened in between.
Well, that's my crafty plan, you see.
Yeah. Well, hopefully you bait plenty of people into trying to work it out and maybe picking up the book. Can you give us any hints about the storyline?
Yeah, it focuses around a young backpacker who's travelling around a slightly composite made-up tropical island called Amanga. Amanga has a strange sort of polytheistic religion, and quite unbeknown to Ben, he gets adopted by one of the local gods as a messiah, and most of the book is about this god's attempts to contact his messiah, who is basically not listening and quite...
very good. I can imagine it must have been quite interesting and exciting getting to invent a fictional religion.
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of based on... I'm a great world traveller, so I've nicked bits of various religions and ceremonies and things I've seen and heard about all over the world, and just melded them all together. And
yeah, picked all the best bits to make something interesting, I suppose. Yeah. Still, it must be quite a fun thing to write. I never thought about attempting to,
That sounds excellent. I like stuff like that. We had a writing exercise in one of our modules actually about creation myths, and I think a lot of us sort of delved into different religions and maybe even their own religions. So I think that's gonna hit it off with quite a lot of people, and I'm intrigued.
There's a lot of scope to be overly creative, because when you're inventing a religion from scratch, you're inventing whatever status quo you want, really, aren't you? You're not confined by anything. So there's definitely going to be... I'm interested to read what you've come up with there. What would you say your biggest influences were?
Well, I got the idea for a manga when I was travelling around Guatemala about 7 or 8 years ago, and some things about Guatemala struck me as reminiscent of India, which I travelled around in the 1980s, and I was about your age. And but I mean, they're both completely different countries. Both have a colonial history, but like Guatemala's Spanish, India was British. But I just started trying to work these two countries together, and at the same time I was working together they have a load of sort of pre-Columbian gods that are still worshipped alongside the Christian god in Guatemala, which looks to me very much like Hinduism. In India you get all these roadside shrines with all animals and strange people and things, so that's where the religion sort of came from, blending those two ideas together mostly. But like I say,
very cool.
I've pinched bits from everywhere as well.
Nice one. I mean, Hinduism's a fascinating religion if you're talking in terms of like one that's got a massive scope for imagery and strange ideas. Just they've got gods with elephant heads and 9 arms. It's all fun stuff with.
They've got great stories in Hinduism.
Yeah. Yeah, there's an awful lot of theology students in this university who'd probably get a kick out of the thought of, where you're going with that, trying to pick out like what bits of your religion were taken from where. Anyway, I fear that we're chatting away, but you've got more poems to read, haven't you, mate?
Yeah, sure. Well, I'll read another bit from a bit into the book. Well, page 8 actually, but yeah, I can't read. It's like I say, I can't go too far into it without having to spend so long explaining what's happened so far. But the first bit of the book is the cathedral I mentioned in the introduction, we're watching a group of tourists being shown around it by a tour guide, and we learn that somebody as yet unidentified is watching this group carefully from somewhere in the shadows in the cathedral, and he's waiting for Ben. He'd first caught sight of Ben some months ago, exploring the plaza outside the great cathedral. Ben's flaxen head in the dusky crowd looked regal. The pink but friendly face appeared to glow in the oven-hot afternoon, but showed no sweat. The type of young man women love to see, or certainly 2 of his 3 companions thought so. Pale-skinned girls, 1 blonde and 1 brunette. The watcher watched them, scrumptious, giggly things, excited by the street stalls, browsing rows of handmade bracelets, necklaces and rings, quite unaware that they were being ogled, treating the central plaza like a show put on for their amusement by the locals. Which, in many ways, of course, it was. In this holy city of Moshadir, all a visiting tourist ever hears is, "Give me, hire me, I'm your guide," because a manga panders to the foreign dollar, and anyone with slightly pallid flesh gets mobbed by men with sticks of candy floss, photographers with monkeys on their collars, glue-eyed, snot-nosed boys with shoeshine brushes, jugglers and acrobats who toss bright balls and one another, sellers of slushes, snake charmers, palm readers, manic flamenco guitarists, old women selling embroideries embossed with Quetzals, Jesus Christ or Che Guevara. Ben and the girls took a seat by a baroque fountain. The second man, a smirking, wire-haired bloke, returned with slushes he'd got from an icebox bike as gifts for his friends. The girls slurped, pouting ungraciously, budged up to Ben in the pleasant, cooling spray exuding from 50 spurting, fish-shaped marble faucets, copiously spouting light-splitting jets that glinted, opalescent. The foursome supped in silence a while, all dreaming separate thoughts, with eyes turned upwards, counting ragged birds that rode the thermals, seeming almost to tickle their wings against the steaming volcanic summit of Moshagonga Mountain. The girl with the dark hair suddenly kicked off screaming. "Oh my God!" Her eyes near popped. "What's that?" And of course, if you want to know what it is, you know how to find out. God the Banana is available on Amazon and Kindle and most ebook stores. Just look for it. Thank you.
It's nice to have someone on the show as well who has something to plug.
Well, I'm sure you'll get plenty of those, don't worry.
Well, sooner or later, hopefully a lot of the people that have been on the show will have stuff to plug.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Pudding writers.
Yeah. You've actually been writing for a long time, haven't you? You've got more books than God the Banana.
Yeah, indeed I have. Do you want to hear about a previous book?
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you want to talk about more books,
well, the book before God the Banana was another verse novel, not quite as ambitious. It's called On the Verge, and I published this. I should have said, actually, God the Banana and On the Verge, they're both self-published by me on the Amazon Create Space website. But I'm selling On the Verge to try and raise some funds for rhinoceros conservation, which is an issue very close to my heart. So any profits from this one go towards helping Chester Zoo's black rhinoceros conservation project in Kenya.
Do you want to tell us any more about what the book's about then?
It's quite a complex, well, it's a couple of stories sort of woven together with another story about myself editing it, which I should say straight away I completely made up. People have been accusing me of plagiarism since I published it. So shall I read you the first poem, and then
go ahead, mate.
it might be easier to explain how it all fits together. It's called The Spirit of the Road. Everything's got a soul, you know. The animals and birds, the rocks, the rivers, flowers and trees, sunshine, rain and snow. Or spirit, perhaps, is a better word. Use what word you please. Through ages past I've quietly flowed, but latterly I've stirred. My breath's gone bad, my tendrils squeeze from a multiplicity of nodes. Wherever you go, you hear my drone, my musks on every breeze. Face the fact, your lifestyle's owed to me alone. Hush now. Listen. Can you hear me? The spirit of the road. I worm through fields, I bore through stone, and all wild creatures fear me. Love me, loathe me, whatever. You'll bear me, because I'm in your bones.
Right. Fantastic.
Yeah, okay. Well, I'll go on to tell the reader in a rather lengthy prose introduction how I picked up that poem from a roadside verge once, scribbled on a bit of paper by an anonymous poet. And I eventually managed to piece it together with a few other fragments of poetry I had collected over the years and decided they were probably all by the same poet.
Yeah.
And put together they tell a story of a young hitchhiker who gets a lift in a ginormous, freaky, almost supernatural truck driven by a huge, freaky, almost supernatural truck driver, and they go around the world doing all sorts of terrible things to the environment. And it's a bit of a satire on the sort of world trade and things like that.
I like my satires.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of stuff about unicorns in there as well, and playing on the association of the unicorn myth with the rhinoceros, which is
yeah, I suppose rhinoceros are just like fat grey unicorns.
Well, yeah, they are. There's a lot of a few stories about sort of myths and legends about rhinoceros, which also apply to the unicorn, and it seems like the one of the sources of the unicorn myth is reckoned to be sort of misunderstood reports of rhinoceroses that filtered through to Europe in the Middle Ages.
Like
yeah,
but when you think about it,
well, it's got to come from somewhere.
Yeah,
hasn't
with
it?
evolution and whatnot, there might have been a slightly thinner rhino, you know, which was more horse-like.
Well, it's just Chinese whispers, isn't it?
Yeah,
I suppose
yeah.
you'd send some fella over, they'd come back and say, "Hey, I saw a big fat horse with a horn on its head."
Yeah.
And you know,
yeah.
very soon
That's
that's
really
going to turn
interesting.
into you know.
But I mean, my theory, one of the reasons why rhinoceroses are in such trouble, you no doubt know, is because in the Far East it's believed the rhinoceros horn has magical properties that can do
They
all
use
sorts
it as
of
medicine,
things.
don't
But
they?
yeah, but that's just linked to myths about unicorns, which are also reckoned their horns have
Yeah.
magical properties.
How strange.
The poor old rhino suffers the price.
Yeah.
So
One day.
you mentioned the accidental accusations of plagiarism then? Is that because people have taken your storyline seriously?
Yeah, I never thought anyone was going to believe it, to tell the truth, but a few people have.
I think you've done your job
might be
correct then.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I should take it as a compliment.
Yeah.
Yeah, if people have taken it that seriously, then obviously it's well written. You know, that's pretty cool. It's a classic thing that's happened before, hasn't it? In War of the Worlds, when it was read over the radio, people freak out, thought that there was an actual invasion going on. It's kind of a similar thing, isn't it? So, to be 100% clear, you didn't find any poems on the floor.
Well, might have done.
Alright, interesting stuff. So that's your first two, and you got a third book as well.
Yeah, the other one here is called Gringo on the Chicken Bus. It has another cover by my partner Robbie, showing a Guatemalan. They call the local buses chicken buses in Guatemala because they're full of chickens.
That's a good reason.
As well as people, and I've travelled on ones that had sheep and goats on as well in my time. But
are we going to get a Gringo on the goat bus then?
Yeah, possibly. Me and Robbie, we've done several journeys to Latin America. In the past, we've been I mentioned Guatemala, but we've been to Costa Rica and Peru and Chile and Panama and Cuba in various times. So it's just a collection of poems based on those.
That's awesome.
Those
Obviously, all this travelling's had a massive impact on your inspirations. I mean, you've mentioned it throughout the podcast. You've been covered half the world in one podcast, I think.
Yeah, well, I do love travelling, and like you said, I don't get much inspiration from my day-to-day life in Britain. Somehow, I'm a professional gardener, but I don't know. I never really think of writing poems about gardens in England. Rather write about rhinos and chicken buses and strange gods and things.
I'm very jealous how well travelled you are. I want to go to Peru. It's one of my
it's a fascinating country.
destinations.
You find can be quite a difficult country to travel around. People don't tend to tell you about the poverty in Peru so much as it is an extremely poor country, and you see some quite gruesome things there. Travelling around as a tourist, you can't avoid it.
I've got to say, I've never thought, actually. I don't know a lot about Peru. Machu Picchu's there, is it?
Yeah,
that's literally where my knowledge begins and ends.
It is about all a lot of tourists see of Peru. It's a fantastic place, Machu Picchu.
It's on my bucket list.
Yeah, it is mine as well.
Yeah, the trouble is it's on just about everybody's bucket list in the world now, and unless you get there about crack of dawn like we did, it's just absolutely full of crowds and crowds of people. But
I saw it on An Idiot Abroad, actually, and Carl Pilkington was moaning about that.
Yeah.
He's just going, I'm sure it's lovely, but I wish everyone would bugger off.
Yeah, precisely. We did manage to get the first bus of the day up there, me and Robbie, which was great because it was just our bus lot so far, and we got up there and it was just completely in cloud. We couldn't see anything.
No way.
But then that was really good actually, because gradually as the sun came out, the fog just started lifting here and there, and you just kept seeing these little vistas through the fog of a bit of a ruin here and another bit there, and it just sort of gradually revealed itself over a couple of hours.
No, that sounds awesome. It adds an air of mystery, doesn't it?
Yeah, it was really, really atmospheric, that. Also, of course, you can't see all the other tourists as well when it's all foggy, which is great. You can kid yourself you're there on your own.
I don't suppose you wrote a poem about that event in particular, did you?
Not exactly, but I did write one about another time when it was really foggy in Peru. It happens a lot in the Andes. So I'll read you that if you like.
Yeah, you might as well, hadn't you? It's on topic.
This was a place called the Colca Canyon, which Peruvians are always happy to tell you is the deepest canyon in the world. It's deeper than the Grand Canyon in America.
Wow.
Any Peruvian tour guide will tell you that endlessly. But there's a place on the Colca Canyon which is famous place for watching condors, Andean condors. We're both great bird watchers, me and Robbie, and it's one of the reasons we keep travelling all over the world. So this is what happened when we went to go and watch the condors in the Colca Canyon. It's called El Condor No Pasa, if you understand Spanish. There's a joke.
I don't.
There's a joke in there. Dawn was a slobber, drooled from fangs of giants. We willed the canyon-clogging mist to shift. The Colca River roiled beneath the silence, muffed in cloud. Snowcaps snarled. We got shoved about by tour groups, guffawing and looking miffed to see no condors. Us, we found some pluses. Hummingbirds, Sierra finch, Andean swift. But naturally the guides were worse than useless. They shrugged and steered their clients back towards the buses. The trippers filed to their seats, muttering, as if they'd booked the birds to soar about this haunt. The coaches throttle up and grumble off. A crowd of hawkers wait the bus we want. The veil of mist dispels. 3 condors flaunt their power of flight, wattles wobbling. They tease, I swear to God, they spread themselves to taunt the coaches as they distance down to toys. Primaries splayed like stiff fingers, flicking V's.
Very good. That was awesome. That was a lot more of a, light-hearted, sarcastic vibe than the other ones, which is cool to hear. A bit of versatility going on, and I liked the ending particularly. It's a bit of a punchline, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You know, birds giving the bird in a way. Oh, very cool. So did that actually happen then?
Yeah, certainly. We were just getting quite annoyed at all these massive great coach parties that turn up at this place and stay for about 5 minutes and look around and can't see any condors and just drive off again. And like I say, we couldn't see any condors, but the place was full of mountain birds everywhere you look. If you just look around you, and even common birds that are common around there are really exotic to us. So.
Yeah, some people don't take enough time, I suppose, to try and notice things. Do they? It's the people who'll take the time to look at them more blessed, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, you get all these tourist tours, and, they advertise, come see the condors, and the guides are all just desperately trying to getting people worked up, you're going to see condors, and they're just totally ignoring all the rest of the wildlife that's all around and everything else, which rather annoys me.
Not to be annoying, but how were the condors? Was that cool to see?
Oh, they're brilliant birds. They're absolutely huge.
I've never been lucky enough to see one
yeah,
myself.
they're great big black and white birds. I mean, they're the biggest bird. Well, Andean condors aren't quite the biggest flying birds in the world. The Californian condors are a little bit bigger than Andean condors, but they're big enough, They're sort of 3-meter wingspan or something.
Wow. Do they build nests about the size of a bed or something?
Yeah, we never saw a nest. I think they must nest somewhere nearby
You'd think you wouldn't be able to
where
miss
we
it,
were,
would you?
but yeah.
Oh, look, there's a mattress in a tree. Oh, wait. Oh, crazy stuff. So, you obviously got around quite... What other places are mentioned in the Gringo in the Chicken?
So I went to Chile. Was the furthest south we've been in the Americas. There's Panama and Costa Rica and Guatemala are all in Central America. All 3 of those are pretty great bird watching countries as well. Yeah. I told you there's Cuba in there, but I was lying actually. We went to Cuba after I'd written that book.
So I think they're your three. Are they your only three published books?
I had more of a pamphlet. Was my first one, which was called Birds of the World in Colour. It was another collection of sonnets on a bird watching theme. But I'm not quite sure if that counts as a book. It was stapled together, black and white cover.
I suppose the measure would be: is it available on Amazon?
It should be, I think. I haven't checked recently. I did sort of register myself as an Amazon trader, so I think you can get that.
Wonderful stuff
on Amazon. You can get the other three.
Yeah, we'll link
Amazon.
All your books in the description.
Yeah, that's why I was asking. We'll put a link to them all.
All right, yeah. I should just mention my website as well, shouldn't I? While I'm plugging stuff,
plug everything you can, mate.
Which is birdbard.co.uk. If you look at that, there's links to all my books on there.
Wonderful. I think we're knocking on to nearly 40 minutes there. You've covered all your main books. Everyone's going to buy them. That's a demand. We met at last month's Wordspace event.
Yeah, that's right.
So a quick shout out to that. It's the first Wednesday of every month.
Yeah, it's a very good event.
Don't you also run an event in...
Oh yeah, I should be plugging that as well. So, yes, I run an event, a similar event called Poems, Prose and Pints, which takes place at the Tap and Spile pub in Harrogate on the third Wednesday of every month. So it's a fortnight after Wordspace.
See, that works. You can have 2 poetry nights per month now.
Yep.
Yeah.
You see? More bang for your buck. I like it. Alright, you've got to come to next month's Wordspace as well, because me and Ethan are reading.
Yeah.
Are we still reading?
Yeah, we're still reading. That's still on. Our creation myth, actually. So.
All right.
Yeah, the ones we mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
Great stuff. Okay. Should we wrap it up with one last poem from you, pal?
If you want, yeah. Talking about all my travels, this one is a favourite slam poem that I do.
Okay.
It's called Around the World in 3 Minutes. You probably know about poetry slams. Competitive poetry, you usually get a strict time limit of 3 minutes, after which you get the plug pulled out or belled out or buzzed or something. So I wrote this. I take a North Sea ferry out from Hull, obedient to my restless soul that's yearning. I see windmills and fields of bulbs, and I hatch a scheme to make a classic journey. In Amsterdam, I smoke some weed, drink some beer, and snort some speed. And I feel like I'm ready to begin it. I'm gonna go around the world in 3 minutes. I go to Paris on the train, across the Pyrenees to Spain, I sail a yacht from Barcelona, dock in Venice, see Verona, marvel at the Colosseum, do Vienna's art museums. I made Moscow in 30 seconds. I think I'll win it. It's a cinch around the world in 3 minutes. I take the Trans-Siberian Express to Vladivostok, to China and Japan and Southeast Asia down to Bangkok. Singapore, what a bore. Indonesia's all a blur. Kangaroo didgeridoo, photograph at Uluru. On Bondi Beach, some topless women ask me would I join them swimming. I say, I'm sorry girls, it's not that I'm timid, it's just that I've got to get around the world in 3 minutes. Waloo-Maloo's a proper mouthful. Fly a chopper to the South Pole. Posh cruise liner takes me into Cape Town. I stand on Table Mountain. Namib Desert, get a breakdown. Hire a camel. Soon I'm counting zebras in the Serengeti. Mogadishu's not too pretty. Giza pyramids, 1, 2, 3. I hurry through the Middle East. Everywhere I go's in crisis. Shelled by Israel, shot by ISIS. Gaza City looks like Leeds. I'm not too fussed with Pakistan. I sing some songs with the Taliban. The Dalai Lama's a funny old man. He points the way to Delhi. The Taj Mahal is cool enough. The Mumbai slums are pretty rough. I do all that usual hippie stuff, but soon my rumbling belly sends me seeking Indian food. I'm shocked to find the rumours true. They've never even heard of Vindaloo. It's a pain, innit? Watching a cook messing about making hand-rolled chapatis when you've only got
1.5 minutes! I fly to Buenos Aires and teach myself tango, then I travel up to Chile in a fruit truck full of mangoes. I look at Machu Picchu and I watch the Mango Vango, then I'm riding on the chicken bus to Chichi Castanango. The Tex-Mex border, my papers aren't in order. They send me to Guantanamo and gloat at me like eagles. Barack Obama lets me go. I salsa with Raul Castro, then paddle to Miami with a boatload of illegals. Hitchhike across the USA, pluck my eyebrows on the way, shave my legs, on the colour girls say. Do, but ain't got time to sing it. I've got to get round the world in 3 minutes. I barrel down Niagara, my cables look spectacular. Belugas on the Saguenay, polar bears in Hudson's Bay. I steal myself a husky sleigh and drive across the Arctic wastes. In Greenland, I get lost in fog. I have to eat my team of dogs. I get swallowed by a great blue whale that swims up the Humber to the Yorkshire Dales and vomits me up. I look at my watch and say, oh, damn it, I've overshot the time limit. I reckon I've gone right round the planet in 3 minutes and 2 seconds.
Nicely done.
Excellent.
That was mental. I've got to say that was not what I expected at all, but that was absolutely sick.
It's won me a couple of prizes, that one.
Yeah.
And it also got me on Britain's Got Talent for a brief 20-second snapshot a few years ago.
Hey, nice one. You know I'm Googling that clip now.
Yeah.
Is it on YouTube?
You can find it on my website. Yeah.
Oh, sick stuff. We'll link that in the doobly-doo as well. Okay. That's been fantastic, mate. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, anytime. If you write another book, send us an email, give us a ring, whatever. We'll have you back on. We'll talk about it again.
Okay.
Well, sure, we'll see you around in Wordspace anyway.
Awesome stuff. Thanks a lot, Tim Ellis.
All right, thank you.
Catch you later.